we welcome you to New York. It's AFA Today on AFR Talk from the belly of the news beast. And one of the things that I have been following throughout the year are the number of films that have been related to faith and family this year. If you take all of the faith and family-oriented films that have actually been released, and there's some controversial titles that you may or may not include in that, and some that we haven't talked about at all, but that are just G-rated animation films and some other things. But if you take the G and PG amount of films that have been put out this year, and you stack up their box office against what has been slated as adults only in the movie markets, the PG-13s, the Rs, etc., you will see a tremendous difference in the value that our culture puts on family-oriented programming. The number one movie, bar none, for the last number of weeks that has continued to just shatter things is Frozen, the animated thing from Disney with the princesses who sing and that sort of stuff. And I have those songs stuck in my head. I don't know why, but I do. It seems like the songs are everywhere. The point being that Hollywood's still figuring this out, that people of values want movies of values to be made. So late yesterday, in their Media Blitz tour through the New York City area, Sean Astin and Sarah Drew, the stars of Mom's Night Out, a Mother's Day card, call it a Mother's Day Valentine to moms everywhere, is coming out this weekend. And I had a chance to screen it earlier in the week with the media, some of the faith-based media here in the New York area. But the film is very, very sweet. But when we sat down to chat with Sean and with Sarah, the first thing I asked Sean Astin, who had starred in Rudy, Lord of the Rings, a bunch of other films that you probably... Goonies. The Lovely Bride was like, ask him if there's going to be a Goonies 2 someday. I never watched Goonies. I wasn't into Goonies, but evidently a lot of people have. We get into a lot of different stuff. I thought it was very interesting that these two rather celebrated actors and actresses who have done quite well in Hollywood were beginning to understand the power of what faith-based audiences are about. And this is how that conversation went down. I started out by asking him, why did you make a movie about a mom taking a night out, and what difference should it really make in the movie marketplace? Sean Astin, what are your thoughts on that?
Such a bad idea to go out with your friends once in a while, not have your complete and total identity be surrounded by your kids. We want our identities to be about our kids, but sometimes you need a little fresh space. So and what does that look like? And what does it look like when people are smart, people are caring, and people love each other, and yet hilarity ensues.
Yeah. Sarah, let me ask you this. You're known for this part on Grey's Anatomy, and you're a very accomplished actress, but this is faith-based in its kind of core subject matter. Did you have any hesitations about stepping into this side of the work?
I did a little bit right at first, because we haven't had a lot of examples of faith-based movies that have had some kind of crossover effect that Hollywood has kind of taken seriously. And I was so excited and so thrilled to read a script that was actually really, really good. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's a bridge building kind of film. I think that there's a pretty big culture war happening between the Christian culture and Hollywood, and the Christian culture is afraid of Hollywood, and Hollywood is afraid of the Christian culture. And this movie kind of bridges that gap and says, hey guys, we don't have to be afraid of each other.
Right.
We're all in this together. We just want to tell a great story about flawed people, because we're all flawed, messy people. All of us, every single one of us. And we want to tell a story about that, and we want to honor moms through it. And that is something that anybody can relate to on any side of that bridge.
It is Mother's Day week, and there's going to be about 900 radio stations that hear what we're talking about today. Sean, if you had one thing you wanted to honor your mom for most, and get ready, Sarah, because I'm going to ask you the same question, what would you publicly say that was?
My mom had an awful lot of faith in me, even as a young kid. For whatever rowdy, rambunctious stuff I got up to, and for whatever, maturity kind of path I was on, very early on, she basically in particular with performing, with being a professional actor and inviting me into her world. Once I did that, she basically just trusted me. And it's a little scary when you realize that's what's happening, because it means you have to take a lot of responsibility for what you're doing. But when I would come to her for guidance, or when things were going this way or that, she treated me like an equal in terms of my ability to go into the world and do things on my own. I mean, the maternal, our relationship always had its appropriate kind of respect quotient, but she sort of expected that I'd do all right in the world and sent me out to do it.
Well, there's a lot of study that shows that kids will give you what you expect of them, and part of what at least some public policy has been about in recent years is that if you don't expect things of kids, they won't get to the standards and so forth that we want them to. And a lot of the pop culture, Sarah, in parenting has gotten that way. We've increasingly tried to take kids out of the home, shove them in daycare, separate them from parents, and they go to school for 18 years, then they go to the college campus for 4 after that. And it's like there's this increasing divorcing of parents from kids. Last night after the film, and I hope I'm not telling anything out of school, you kind of came to the defense of stay-at-home moms, and you said they've not been championed, and that was you really spoke passionately about that. Why?
Yeah, I think moms, and especially stay-at-home moms, are the greatest unsung heroes in our culture today. I think we used to celebrate them, but we don't really celebrate them. We don't celebrate them unless it's also coupled with doing some sort of high-powered job or some incredibly important charity work, or at the very least, some very insightful mommy blog. It's like just, quote unquote, just being a mom has somehow become not enough, which is just an appalling idea to me, because the role, a mom, especially a mom who has chosen to give her life's work to her children, has the terrifying and holy charge of raising up little tiny souls to become people who encounter the world and the people in it with either grace and kindness or with malice and indifference. I honestly cannot imagine a job that is more profound and more important. And this film, what's amazing about Mom's Night Out, which is what struck me so much about this movie, is that we hold moms up and we say, thank you. We love you. You are important. The work you do is important. You are warriors. You are superheroes, and we honor you. That's what my mom was. And my mom also worked. My mom worked, and she also was 100% mom and 100% science teacher. And man, it's just a hard job. It's a hard job, and we need to celebrate it.
You're a little bit of a...
Let me offer a thought on that.
Go ahead.
And this is... The cool thing about this movie is it doesn't wade into politics. It's not trying to take a stance on anything other than the filmmakers have families. Everybody involved, the actors, almost everybody is married and has kids. And these are people who are just making a movie that was a fun celebration of what a kooky time our life is. People are not faced with terrible illness. They're not faced with financial deprivation. They're not faced with these things. And yet somehow people who live a middle class life are entitled to have their issues played with and identified and celebrated. So, but what I would say is that, again, two things that are seemingly contradictory are not. And yet it's hard to talk about them because you have to identify both. And one is that for many, many years, I mean, women only got the right to vote in this country. What is it, 1917? So, and to this day, I guess there's some debate about it, but women are still paid less on more than occasion for doing the same job as a man. So the women's rights movement, feminism as a political force has arrived at a place where they say, I don't want to be kept out of the marketplace. I don't want to have my application rejected because I'm a woman. I don't want to be put in that pile. Now we have female senators, not as many as there should be. We have female congressional people. You've got female CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. But that arc, that historical arc that's happening, should keep moving in the direction that it's moving, a direction of equality. At the same time, people who are loving, embracing family life and realize that commitment has its own challenges, has its own joys and frustrations and everything else, shouldn't be left out of the conversation.
Right.
That conversation, those people are entitled to as Sarah was saying, to be celebrated. My mother worked harder than any 100 people I know. She probably did 250 movies a week. She was president of the Screen Actors Guild. She was always working, and when she wasn't working, she was exhausted. So I saw firsthand what a powerful, hardworking woman was.
Right.
My wife has legit chosen not to do graduated with honors from UCLA, thought about going into archaeology, is an incredible artist. She has any one of a million things that she would, and maybe on some level should do. But what's most important to her, what she loves the most, is not a political decision. It's not a decision to say, I think that this is right or wrong based on somebody else's standard. Mm-hmm. She loves being with her kids. She wants them to excel. She wants to make sure every day they go to school prepared to succeed, prepared to excel. And that's hard work. It's hard work to keep them A students, to make sure that they always know where their homework is and always feel empowered and know when to back off and let them make their mistakes or have their failures, and to put up with a husband who's racing around a million times. It's not a political issue. Sort of how dare pundits and others try and minimize or in any other way kind of other the nuclear family story, to try and grab the phrase family values and say that family values are owned by a red state mentality, to try and say that you mentioned the politics, like across the range of politics. You're talking about education issues, you're talking about healthcare, you're talking about all these things. Forget all of that. Some people are proud and trying to raise their kids, and those people deserve to be entertained, and they've been asking for this kind of quality entertainment, and so we're out there trying to give it to them.
And that's one of the things that the marketplace has rewarded this year. There's been record numbers of tickets sold for faith-based and family values-oriented films. Sorry, I don't mean to associate with that.
No, it's not. The language is powerful. Family values mean something. Just because it gets hijacked by in a political context doesn't mean that it's not totally appropriate. So please, family values. And this is a family values movie.
And yes, I second that wholeheartedly. Sarah, I meant to ask you your question. If you could honor your mom with one public remembrance of something that was important to you growing up, what would that be?
I mean, there's so many things. My mom, there's so many things. She is someone who poured herself out for every other member of the family before herself at all times. If I were to think of the major a word that describes my mom, it's selfless. And I experienced that even when I was a very selfish, arrogant, thinking the world was centered around me kind of kid. I still recognize that in my mom. I didn't just go, oh, well, you're supposed to. It was like, oh my gosh, every single time the lamb chops come out, you make sure all of us have the best ones, and then you take the smallest one every single time, without fail, without doubt. The other thing that I would say that I love my mom so much about is I had a really rough time socially making friends in elementary school and in middle school. Really, really, really hard time. It was very painful. And my mom was my rock during that time. And she knew exactly how to build my spirit up and remind me of my true identity and remind me of what a beautiful masterpiece I was every single day. And that's the only reason that I made it through middle school and elementary school is because my mom was standing firm beside me as my mother bear and as my best friend.
I think that idea of sacrificial motherhood is kind of universal. I was in Haiti in December, and there's a village there that I'm rallying listeners to get involved with me on, and we're building homes for families that lost them in 2010 in the earthquake and stuff. But there was this one mom that has 9 kids, and she lives in a house that's literally smaller than this room.
Gosh.
And the dirt that's outside the threshold is the same dirt they sleep on inside the threshold. And when we went to see her, she said, "I'm sorry I'm not smiling," in her broken Creole. She tried to speak English. She couldn't. But the translator said, "I'm sorry I'm not smiling. I just gave one of my children the last bit of food that I have, and I don't know where my next bit of food is going to come from." And she, it was that I got to get them taken care of before I can deal with myself. So I'm sorry that I'm not smiling. I'm sorry that I'm not social, but I love my kids too much. It was just one of those things that you go, see, that's a universal thing. That's family values. That's no matter where. Moms are always sacrificing.
I always find it amusing and cool and ironic that no matter where I go in the world, anywhere, China, South America, all through Europe, everywhere you go, the people are proud that their culture is the most important thing is their family and their children. But they all say that.
Yeah,
So I think it's, there'd be less wars if people kind of went into agreement with the fact that that's what was happening.
It's something that God puts in us innately.
I was going to say it's something that.
And when we continue, we'll pick it up from right there. But that is the first half of the conversation that we had yesterday, late in the day, after we were off the air, with Sean Astin and Sarah Drew. They are the two lead characters. They play the two lead characters in the new film Mom's Night Out. That is, I don't know. I think it's a very sweet Valentine to moms. I saw the screening of it. I know people that saw it at NRB. And everyone that I know that has seen it has said it just really touched them. If you have any amount of affection for your mom, and my mom is deceased and hasn't been on the planet since I was 17. I'm now 44. I miss her incredibly. But this is a film that I thought really captured even what she was about as well. Kevin McCullough is my name. So glad that you're with us every single day. We will continue with this exclusive. Sean Astin and Sarah Drew from the film Mom's Night Out. When we continue, this is AFA Today from New York on AFR Talk. And if you ever want to drop us a note, kmcradio@gmail.com. Always eager to hear from you, kmcradio@gmail.com. You can also talk to us on the Facebook page, afatoday.com, and also on Twitter. I'm Kevin McCullough, coming right back. Stay with us.